Hi guys, uh, welcome back. So this is the video in continuation of a series of implementation of Splunk in Scratch. So in my last video, we have talked about what all types of implementations are there in standalone, distributed, cluster. In cluster, there are single site cluster, multi-site cluster, and we also talked about cloud. So it was a brief video. Now uh, we will talk. Also, I have explained about installing uh, Splunk on standalone server. So this is a brief about that, where on the standalone in one machine I have installed Splunk. I explained how to install, and from one machine itself it will work as search head, indexer, monitoring console, and license master. So there are few components which are only applicable only in the distributed or cluster environment. So those are masters. So we'll talk about them in detail when we move forward. So in last video, I have talked about standalone, or I explained about standalone uh, Splunk, where as you can see here, it will act as a indexer where the data is going to ingest through a data source. So this is the data source, and uh, data is going to ingest into Splunk in only in single instance. Now that data can be searchable from the client. Client can be anything. It's like a browser from where you can access. The end user will be sitting on the client, and then he can access it through 8000 port. So can access it through 8000 port. Now uh, the user can search the data, create a reports and dashboard through that data which is ingested from the input. Okay. Now again, but this standalone server will act as a monitoring console, where you need to set up a monitoring console and you will check the health of the system through standalone server. Again, it will have a license. So till 60 days you will have a free license. After that it will goes to a free uh, like a free version of Splunk, where it will have the limitations, and there are several limitations of it. So these are the overall components which are required in standalone servers, and also this type of uh, setup we use in POCs, small scale industries, and if you want to learn Splunk, so you can set up these things. So let's move in this video. I'm going to explain about the distributed environment, where I will have one search head and multiple indexers. Multiple, I will choose two indexers. So we'll start with the I will start with um, explaining the features of explaining the terminologies behind that. So let's start. So in the distributed environment, we can have more than one core Splunk. core Splunk, as in more than one search head or more than one indexers. So before that, before we begin, what is the need of distributed environment? So in single on instance, single standalone instance, there is a limitations that limitation in the sense, uh, there is only one server, so there is single point of failure for anything, and we cannot achieve many things, right, like resilience, HA, or if you want to handle more data, so it will be very difficult with the standalone environment. So there is an option of distributed environment where you can have more than one component of Splunk. So also, if you have you are new to Splunk, so please go ahead and watch my video about the component of the Splunk. So after that, you will get to know that how many components, what all components are there, and how they are connected to each other. So in this video, I will talk about distributed environment. Distributed environment, don't be get confused with distributed environment and HA environment. So HA, distributed environment, can or cannot be HA, high availability, or cluster. And the cluster, when we talk about cluster, the cluster is a distributed environment. So don't get confused with in distributed and uh, cluster environment, high availability. So in the distributed environment, there is nothing mentioned that it should be high available. It can or cannot be highly available, or it can or cannot be a cluster environment. So distributed environment, uh, uh, in this example, I'm going to take one search head and two indexers. Two indexer, it can have independent data. One I can, on one indexer I can install, I can ingest Windows data. Another one I can ingest uh, like say Linux data or any other kind of data. So also these instance are itself by itself are uh, full stack Splunk. So when I will explain about that. We will install Splunk on one search head, then install Splunk on another search head, another indexer, one indexer, another indexer, and then we will map, or we will configure search head to search with indexer 1 and indexer 2. So that will be, and I'll be using GUI. In this, I am not going to use backend configurations, so I can use it. But yeah, for beginners or who is learning is Splunk, it will be easy for them to follow with GUI. So so ingestion part will happen on indexing layer, and whatever the ingestion will happen in standalone, everything is happening on one search it. So we have distributed the role where indexer the index the data, and can receive data from inputs. Whatever the inputs are there, ingest it in Splunk, and then data can be searchable through search it. So if there is one more benefit, if you had distributed the roles, then the user concurrent users can, the search head or Splunk can handle more than one users, more than one, like many data sources. So that is one of the benefit of distributed environment. So now once you have added the data in Splunk, it is indexed, then we the user can log into any of the client and search the data reports, or he can create a report search or create a dashboards alert from search it. Now the things the thing is, when you have three of the environment, so you can easily, three of the instance, you can easily like manage the configuration of it. So I will not go in detail uh, with the other components here. So I will talk about only search head and their configuration, search head, index, distributed indexer, and their configuration. Now it's optional for like monitoring console. There is one of the component, monitoring console, which checks the uh, health of your environment. So you can uh, make your search it as monitoring console, and also you can make your search it as license master. There is the option of making in distributed environment, you can make uh, those managers to indexers as well. So you can assign this, but it's better to go with, because indexer in production environment, indexer should not have GUI enabled. So it's better to go and have uh, indexers, like say search head as monitoring console and license master. Again, as I mentioned, I'm not going to describe in detail, discuss in detail about the other component in this. Move as we move further on the video, on in the series, I will explain about those critical components. So let's start installing Splunk on search head. Then I'll move to installing Splunk on indexer, then Splunk indexer 1, then indexer 2, and then I will configure search head to access both the both the indexer, where it can be possible one indexer is searching different, one indexer have the different input, another indexer have another another input. So there is pros and cons of this uh, this deployment. So we'll talk about this in more detail. So let's deep dive into the practical. Server where I am going to install search it. So let's do clear screen. Okay. Now in this video, I'm going to install Splunk as root user, but uh, I request you guys not to install Splunk with the root user in production environment. This is for only for learning purpose. So I'm installing and installing it as a root user. So how to install Splunk with the Splunk user with having limited permission? I have created video. The last video is on installing Splunk on standalone. So similarly, you need to perform this activity when you create a search it, install Splunk on search it. Also, there are two instances should be there, and uh, 8089 port should be enabled. Then 997 port should be enabled on indexers. So these are few ports it should be enabled, and these ports should be enabled on all. It's good to enable on all the servers, all the instances, but if you don't enable it on 8000 port, if you don't enable on indexer, that is fine, because generally in production environment we are not going to use web UI uh, to access indexes. And also the prerequisite when you are uh, commissioning your servers. So let's begin. So I'm not going to create a user, or so these are the steps I followed when I installed standalone server. So I will directly jump uh, into installing wget. Hit yes. Okay, this is installed. Now I will fetch the Splunk. So this is done. This is almost done. And then directly I will go and install Splunk with root user. I request you not to install Splunk with root user. So Splunk is installing. It is extracting all the packages. Now I need to accept the licenses and check and give the passwords, admin admin user and password. Okay, so it is installing. So let's see whether it is installed. Bin Splunk status. So yeah, Splunk is running. So I need to log into GUI and check whether Splunk instance is accessible or no. So this is currently the name is searched, but currently it is a standalone server. So I will install Splunk on Indexer 1, Indexer 2 similarly, and then move to configure it. Okay. So now I will install Splunk on Indexer. So let me run install wget. Okay, so this is done. I'll clear a screen, then download Splunk. So let's Splunk is downloaded. I will directly run this command without any further delay. So this is installing. Meanwhile, I'll copy the command to accept the license and start Splunk. So it will ask for admin password, admin username password. So this is the password you need to set for admin. So the Splunk standalone server is installed, and on standalone machine. So I'm assuming it as a indexer. Now we indexer 1, and now I will start on indexer 2. Indexer number 2, I will follow the same process to install Splunk on indexer number 2. So okay, yes, this is done. Same process I'll follow. It is installing Splunk. I'm just keep in mind I'm skipping these steps. All of this, but these steps are important, and I have already covered it in when I installed single instance. I'm keep saying because you should not use this method as I'm using in this video. For installing, you should uh, go to my previous video and check. I'm not following best practice in this video. So Splunk is installing with root user. That is not best practice, just I am using it for my video purpose because I have already explained in my previous video. So okay, why it is failed? Set. Okay, this is already done, I guess. Why I'm doing it? So Splunk bin Splunk status. Yeah, Splunk is running. So we have installed Splunk on searchhead, indexer 1, indexer 2. So now the next step is I need to access all three. I need not to access all three GUI, just access Splunk Splunk search head and just add two of the indexer as search peer. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, you need to know the IP address of all your instances. So this is my search head. Let's access search head, http and 8000 port. Is it accessible or no? Let's see. Yeah, it is accessible. Admin and whatever the password you have provided during the installation. Never and got it, whatever the things I have. So this is Splunk standalone. Currently I have not removed uh, web access from indexer. For learning purpose you can remove or you can you if you wish you keep it as it is. So let's see how to do by GUI, by accessing GUI. So HTTP. Also you should enable HTTPS. You should not be on the HTTP. But this is learning purpose, so you can, like, I am not doing it. Let me access HTTP other search other indexer as well. What is happening? Yeah, it is working. Let's see HTTP. This is working on. Okay, so let's go to indexer number 1. Never. This is in progress. Voice is slow. Okay, so it will work. Meanwhile, we will check how to set up indexer peer. So you need to go to settings. First of all, you should have admin access. You need to go to settings, distributed search, setting distributed search on. It should be on, should not be off. Timeout and
keep it for now, it is by default. Now search peer. So search peers are nothing but your indexers. So add indexer. So it is shown here that uh, it should be at HTTPS and server name and port, the management port. This is called the management port. So now let's okay HTTPS management port. So I'm using the same username password, admin username password. Let's see if it is connected or no. Okay, I have done a mistake. So let me check once again. Yeah, it is initializing. So first it is connected. Now I will go for second one. Not sure why it is up. Let's see if it is HTTPS. So internal communication is always HTTPS. So that is one thing to keep in mind whether you have enabled HTTP. So admin password. I'm not going to tell. So let's see if it is giving any error. I guess something is going on this server. I need to check it, but let's see whether okay, this is timeout. So in index search, have you started? What is happening? Already running. This index 2000 port. Let's see. I'll restart Splunk. How it goes. I'm going to restart. So it is restarted. Let's see if it is accessible. Should be now. Okay. Maybe it is this instance is in some other some other region, that's why it is not happening. So I need to check whether the ports are it is connecting to that port or no. So let me have a look on that, and I'll pause the video. So the connectivity issue is resolved with the, the other indexer. So I have logged in to this. Never got it, and we will run this setting once again. Yeah, so this is showing successful. This is in progress. So meanwhile, we will disable will disable the GUI settings, GUI web UI from indexer. So here it is an option, run Splunk web, and from generally in production environment we use SSL for web. So if you disable this, click OK. So once you refresh, it will, you will not have GUI enabled. I guess we need to restart it. Once you restart, same, you need to go to same activity and perform another indexer. So you need to get to setting, system, server settings, general, run Splunk web, disable, keep all the other settings default, save. It will pop up in a message to restart, or you can restart from here, system, server, restart. As digital, you must restart. So UI is disabled, so you cannot perform the restart from UI. So disable let's restart Splunk on both of the instance. Restart. I will do restart another one. Splunk. Restart. This is done. Let's first one. Now it will not show up. UI disabled. Let's refresh. Uh, This is initiated down, that's why it is initiated. So okay, so it is successful. Let's see. Yeah, first of all, we need to check whether any error or anything is there. Either can be uh, the port is not enabled, or it is not in the same region. Servers is not in the same region, or any other connectivity issue. So if you need to check if data will be searchable or no. So what you need to do is, with respect to all the instances, the data will be there in underscore internal logs. You should see the server name, so there should be searched, another server name should be there. So unable to distribute peer name. This is this URI. It is successful. So you can see two indexer 1, indexer 2, and search it. So all the three uh, environment data is there. So this is how you have successfully configured distributed environment where one searched and two indexers are the member of this distributed environment. So in our further video, what we will do, we will ingest the data in indexer, in two of the indexer, and try to search the data over here. Hope you have understood the basic concept of distributed environment, how to enable distributed environment with two indexer, one search head. Also, as we move further, I will uh, deep dive into other concepts. Also, I will try to create video in configuring uh, distributed environment from the backend, from the .config files. So stay tuned with me for further videos. Thanks for watching.